Today is all about how to create boundaries and hold them. Holding boundaries is a skill. People seem to think that they're born with this knowledge or this capacity, and it's not. It's not a trait. Like your height or your hair color or something. It's a skill. It's something that you get good at over time by practicing it. So let me say that first. In the very beginning, if you haven't been holding your boundaries, it's tough. It's something that you really are going to have to put a lot of attention to and a lot of intention. And I'm going to give you my sort of top 5 tips for how to do that in just a minute. But first, I just want to say that boundaries are so important. They are the way we feel safe in the world. They are the way we feel that we're okay, that we can trust, that we can be vulnerable, we can take risks. Without those boundaries, we don't feel that way. And there's huge consequences to pay. I think that's one of the things people really miss, my clients that I work with, and I miss it myself sometimes in my own life, that there's always a consequence when you do not hold your boundary. A lot of times that's something internal. We end up feeling resentment, anger, frustration, shame, low self-worth, anxiety, depression. You're so worried about hurting other people's feelings that you hurt your own. You take it on yourself. It's insane, but we do it. So, but there's other repercussions too. People often will overeat, they'll stuff their feelings, drugs and alcohol, obviously, overspending. Not keeping your boundaries can come out in a multitude of ways. It's huge. You're not going to feel as connected to your partner. Because if you're not holding your boundaries with your partner, you are gonna start to feel unsafe in that relationship. And I don't mean necessarily physically unsafe, but emotionally unsafe, which means that you don't share things. If your boundary doesn't get held and you share something and you get knocked down for it, you're not gonna feel like you can be vulnerable in the relationship. And vulnerability is key to having a close, intimate, emotionally close relationship. So when you don't hold your boundaries, I want you to remember that, wow, I'm really literally hurting myself, and all in the name of not hurting someone else. It is not mean to hold a boundary. People will tell you it is because they don't like it, but that's on them. And one of the key things to remember is this, that there's a difference between putting up a wall and having a boundary. And a lot of times folks don't know the difference, and I'll tell you the difference right now. The difference is the love. There's no other way to say it. The difference between putting up a boundary or putting up a wall is that boundaries have love and walls do not. Walls are all about our fear. They're all that base emotion, that negative emotion. They're about our fear, our anxiety, our depression, our overwhelm. You get overwhelmed, you put up a wall. Our, again, feelings of shame, our defensiveness, our resentment, our rage, our helplessness, our hopelessness, all of that, that's when you put up a wall, like, ugh, I'm not doing that. A boundary is actually from love, meaning compassion, empathy, clarity, kindness, gentleness, all that easily can be part of a boundary. It's really about, number one, self-love. Yeah. It's about you honoring yourself and what you need. So how can you go wrong? And it's also about having that intention when you say the boundary to another person. So for myself, if sometimes I have some difficulty with my mom, and my boundaries can feel like they get trampled, and when I say something, I just, right before I say it, I'll notice at first that kind of anger that she's done this thing, that she's said this thing. It's usually something she says that I don't like, or that makes me feel uncomfortable, or that makes me angry, or whatever that might be. And so the important thing is not to come from that space. Don't come from that space when you tell someone to please not do whatever they did, or you don't even have to say please, but that you're not comfortable. That's usually what I say, like, hey, I'm really not comfortable with this conversation or where it's going, and I really need us to end it and talk about something else. Or, I have asked you before if you could speak to me this way, I'm going to remind you that that's really what I need in the conversation. And coming from that place of wanting to connect, wanting to find a space for me, wanting to find a space with my mom where we can really connect. And it's, it can be challenging sometimes, and sometimes I have to end the conversation or not go to certain topics because she just can't seem to hold them, and I don't want to lose the entire relationship. So you don't have to always think that, oh, I can never speak to that person again. A lot of times, I would say every time you put up a wall, it's because you don't trust yourself. It's not because you don't trust the other person. You might not. You might worry, oh, well, they're just always trampling my boundaries. Well, they can't keep doing that unless you allow it. So there's a place where you need to take 100% responsibility and decide, well, what if we didn't always talk about this? A lot of times what I find is that people are trying to convince someone else and get them on their side. So you get in that power struggle so that, well, they said this thing and it was horrible and I just had to tell them that, it was wrong and all that. I don't always go there. Sometimes I do, but often I don't. Often I just go to, hey, that's not really where I'm comfortable. You don't want to get into all the justification and all the reasons why. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but you really want to just be in, again, as much as you can, that loving intention of wanting to connect, of having compassion for yourself and the other person. With my mom, I'm always reminded that she's doing the best with the tools she has from her lifetime, and that's the best she can do. And so I have to figure out what I can take, what I can have, and what I can't. And again, that's my job to hold the boundary. I hope that she tries, and I hope that she responds to that. And she actually does quite a bit over time. Took a while. That's the other thing about boundaries, is that a lot of times we draw them and people don't hold them because they're testing. They test the boundary, not consciously. Folks aren't consciously thinking, oh, I'll go after that again. People are people, and this is what we do. We see something we don't like and we try again. I'm sure if you have kids, for sure, you've had them ask you something more than once if they want it, if they really want it. They'll come at you again and again with it, or they'll go to their other parent, or they'll do whatever with that. We push at things that we don't like, and that happens quite a bit. So I really want you to remember that having the empathy and the love is what it's all about. And a wonderful thing got said to me not long ago, which was, your job is to make other people feel loved, not comfortable. It is not your job to make them comfortable. That is their job. That is all on them. Your job is to be in the love. So always have that. Always have that. This might be uncomfortable. I'm doing whatever I'm doing. It doesn't make you mean. It doesn't mean you're a horrible person. It certainly doesn't mean that you're selfish or narcissistic or self-absorbed. And you'll hear that in the beginning, trust me. You'll hear those words, and it's gaslighting. It is total gaslighting. That's what people say when they don't like your boundary. That's what they say. And what I like is that I know if I'm coming from a loving intention or not. I can tell. So for me, I'm there. I'm like, okay, I came from a loving intention. This is something I really need. They will play this with me or not. And then it's my choice whether or not I stay in the relationship with them if they can't hold it. So I'll tell you just a few things I want you to keep in mind for holding boundaries as a skill, because it's a skill and you have to practice it. One is this thing I just sort of said, which is basically a loving detachment. You're loving, you say what you need to say, but you are not attached to the outcome of them doing it or not. It doesn't mean they hate you. It doesn't mean you're not important to them. It just means they have their own work to do if they can't keep the boundary. And you can, again, think things like they're doing the best with the tools they have or whatever it is. It doesn't mean you have to stay in the relationship or stay in the relationship in the same way if they can't hold the boundary. You lovingly detach from all the stuff that they're doing, and you figure out where you want to be in all this. The other thing I want to say is that you need to be as consistent as possible. I know. And that can sometimes be the hardest thing, but practice, practice, practice. The way you get better at this is to practice. And the best way, or the only way really I know to do that, is that you have to be mindful. You have to be in your moments and very self-aware in those moments. So sometimes when my mom and I are having a thing, I notice that I feel tightness in my chest. I notice that we call it kind of a meta position, or like almost like a third person looking down on the conversation. And I'll be able to notice going, ooh, I am feeling very pissed off right now. Oh, gosh, I feel so defensive, or I feel so icky. I feel so icky right now. And that's how I know, because sometimes I know, I'm a psychologist. Sometimes I don't know my feelings. But being able to identify it in the moment, I can then change my tact. I was like, ooh, let's not get defensive, because sometimes I catch myself being defensive or being angry or reacting in a certain way that's not loving. And so I want to just sort of pull that back and take a breath. And I might say the exact same thing I just said, but it's very different when I say it from that loving intention. So I can, you can say to someone, well, I am very uncomfortable with what you're talking about. I am very uncomfortable. That sounds very different than, you know what, I'm really uncomfortable with what you're saying. It's not resonating with me. I'm not okay with this. That feels completely different because it's coming from a different place. So I want you to really keep that in mind. Again, holding that intention. And the last thing that I touched on before was don't justify or explain your boundaries. So sometimes someone will come back at me when I make the boundaries and, well, why not? Why can't I say that? Or what's da-da-da? And they start talking. And no is a complete sentence, and so is your boundary. And you can just say, you know what, I really don't want to get into that with you. Just suffice it to say, I'm not comfortable. And that should be enough. And it is enough. Not should be, that is enough. So, and that's it. And that's the end of the conversation. All right, so that is your little tutorial on boundaries today. You have to remember the love to keep it as a boundary and from being a wall. I'm Dr. Abby Metcalf. I help people create lasting change in their relationships, even if their partner or brother or sister or friend or lover or whoever won't do a thing.